Okay, guys, great to have you on, and good morning. Big ball game against Air Force. The last several years that I've been our head coach, I think they've always come down to almost a one-possession game. Our players are excited about it. I'm personally excited about it. It's going to be a heck of a match here on the Front Range. A little bit about our football team. This last week, we have utilized the week to certainly work on fundamentals, improve some things on offense, defense, and in the kicking game, and obviously working hard schematically on Air Force as well. During the course of the week, it's allowed some of our players to get a little bit healthier. Trayton Welsh has returned back to full activity, which is encouraging. And then we had several other players. Colin O'Brien is back out practicing as well. And then along with that, just a lot of players who were somewhat dinged up. And during the course of the four-game stretch, you're going to have some of those injuries. And so we're pleased that we had a really good bye week. Our team is engaged. They understand the challenge and the great opportunity that we have entering conference play, and particularly on the mountainside. And so that's where we're at as a football team. A little bit about Air Force. Boy, what a heck of a football team. I think this is probably the most physical football team that Air Force that I've coached against. And I know Coach Calhoun and those cadets pride themselves on being a really physical football team. They certainly are, as I've watched all the game tape on both sides of the ball and on special teams as well. Offensively, putting up almost 450 yards per game, 35 points per game. The ball gets spread around. They always seem to have a quarterback. I don't know how Coach Calhoun does it, but Hazik Daniels is operating that offense really well, number 4. They've always had great fullbacks, and they've got 2 of them, Brad Roberts, number 20, and Emmanuel Michael, number 28. And, if you're going to be effective against Air Force, you got to stop the fullback. And without question, they have 2 really hard-nosed guys there. And then they have some speed as well. Number 0, Micah Davis, is an outstanding skill player. He's able to get to the edges. And, they have Hazik also has the ability to throw the ball. And so a really, really challenging offense to prepare for. They know what they're doing. They have answers, and they have good players. Over on the defensive side of the football, number 26, Sanford, is a guy who really has jumped out at me. An edge rusher. I think he's got 5.5 sacks this year. Very disruptive. Their front 7 is all disruptive. Meeks is an outstanding linebacker, number 38. Really solid player that has always seemed to be in the right place. And they do a great job on defense taking the ball away. They're really opportunistic. So heck of a ball game, heck of a challenge. Going to Colorado Springs is always, a challenge to play there. And our players are embracing that challenge. And so we're looking forward to playing the ball game. So at this time, I'll open up to questions.
Josh, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Going up against a triple option team, how do you find that balance between, focusing on what you guys want to do as a defense while also prepared for an offense that's, unlike any that you'll probably see this year?
Well, I think the one thing about Air Force, schematically through the years, I've seen how they've adapted to their personnel. They know who they are, but they always seem to have the answers to what you present them. And so it's one of those things, beyond being a triple option offense, there's power within their offense. They'll run the off-tackle power, their inside zone, there's counter sweeps, there's all kinds of things. So beyond the, quote, triple option, there's triple option, two-way option, all these things, and it really presents a challenge. What we need to be really disciplined and physical at the point of attack. We need to establish the line of scrimmage. We need to tackle well. We need to defend the pass well. So a lot on our plate.
Ryan, go ahead.
Greg, you kind of alluded to it, but when you look at the overall series record as well as how close the games are between these two teams, it's one of the better rivalries around. How do you kind of view the rivalry, and what's your reaction to Air Force and Colorado State deciding to, ignore the overtures from the American and stick around the Mountain West?
I don't know all the details of overtures and things like that. You're probably much more in tune with that. We've been in our own foxhole, but I can tell you the Mountain West is an excellent conference. It's a conference that has challenged me personally, and I've coached in about every single one of them. We're all excited about the 12 members we have. You're right. The Air Force game, while Colorado State, we're playing for the boot, the Air Force game for our players and our coaches is a game that we've always looked forward to. They've been hard-fought games, and we're anticipating one this coming Saturday.
Cody, go ahead.
Greg, how much did being a defensive coordinator at Nebraska and facing an offense
Mm-hmm.
kind of similar to this help you prepare for Air Force every year as a head coach?
That certainly helped. There was elements going through spring football and fall camp. Coach Osborne was a very innovative offensive coach. But along with that, a lot of people don't know this. I worked for a guy named Fred Goldsmith for 5 years. Coach Goldsmith actually coached at the Air Force Academy and at Arkansas under Kenny Hatfield. And so the lineage and the connection between triple option and what Air Force has done offensively has evolved, but a lot of common themes there. And so, some weeks I get more engaged in coaching, I hate to say it, than others, but this is somewhat something that is, I guess within my wheelhouse. A lot of young coaches these days really never are confronted with option football, and so our coaching staff has worked hard. Our players have worked hard. We know that there's going to be a challenge, and we're excited about playing.
Josh, next question.
Yeah, Coach. You mentioned a little bit earlier, but the bye week, obviously a chance to get some guys healthy. But how big is it just kind of having that bye week position right before you get started with Mountain West play and kind of start the season new, so to speak?
Well, every year you get the schedule and how it's composed. I think there's some computer system that they do and everything else. Once you get it, you start looking and you start planning ahead. We knew that the non-conference schedule was going to tax us. The trip out to Yukon, we're excited that we came up with a victory, and it was a long trip and we got back late. And so this gave us an opportunity to, one, get some rest, but then utilize the time. I think it's really important for coaches to dig in and take a kind of an inventory of where we're at offensively, defensively, special team wise, to tweak some things, to make some improvement. And then, now we're looking at getting into conference play. And I can't tell you how excited that our program is. Conference is the price of poker's gone up. And this is a big, big ball game. We're excited. The bye week came where it did. I think we utilized it well.
Ryan, go ahead.
Craig, can you kind of explain the level of discipline that defensive players have to have against Air Force, and especially the safety position? You've made kind of about Vandy's tackling and Rome Weber's coming on, but just their responsibility of coming up to make tackles and also being prepared for those few pass attempts that seem to go for big yards when Air Force does pass.
Yeah, many times what Air Force will do, they, as I said earlier, they have answers for everything that you do. And, we've gone out and we practiced without a football, made sure everybody's doing their responsibilities. You certainly want great pursuit to the football, but you cannot guess. And you just mentioned whenever you think that you've got them stopped, all of a sudden they come up with a play-action pass, and it's a big, big gain. And so they have the ability to throw. It's a challenging offense, without question. It's an offense that, that our players are understand the challenge. And all 11, it's 11 men against the run, 11 men against the pass, and we're going to need to be playing well.
Cody, go ahead.
Greg, I don't know if you're at liberty to say who the scout team quarterback is this week, but he can really be the unsung hero of this whole thing, can't he?
Without question, anytime you play somebody like Air Force, you go through all kinds of gyrations to make sure that you do the best you can. What you want to strive to do, Cody, is prepare your defense to the point where when they see plays during the course of the game, they've been able to at least been close to replicating what Air Force is like. And that's hard to do, whether it be the quarterback, the offensive line, the cuts that they do. All these things present challenges. We're pleased with how our scout squad's done, but make no mistake, and I've told our players, you're going to get a different speed come the first play of the game. Our guys have worked hard. I'm not going to tell you who's been playing quarterback on our scout team, but I think we've gotten a good look.
Tracy, go ahead.
Do you think it helps, particularly this year with having so many players back that have been against the Air Force? Some of them have been, this will be their 5th year playing against them. Does that help you think, when you go into this game?
Well, I think it helps, but it goes on their side too. I mean, they've got a lot of players who've played a lot of football, but our guys, like a guy like Garrett Krall remembers all these games. You have guys like Isaiah Scandy, Braden Smith. Some of these guys have played a lot of football, and they understand, one, the intensity level of the game, two, how close these games have been decided, and then the competitiveness of the games as well. And those guys have embraced it. So, there was no big pep talk to say, hey, you guys can't, you got to get ready to play Air Force. Everybody understands how critical this game is and what kind of quality opponent they are.
Cody, go ahead.
Greg, at Mountain West Media Days, Troy Calhoun kind of stopped short of calling this a rivalry game. He said it's an important game that they want to win. Do you guys consider it the same, or do you consider this really a rivalry?
We consider a rivalry game. You go in our locker room, it's a rivalry game. Maybe it's not to Coach Calhoun, but it is to us.
Ryan, go ahead.
Craig, obviously it's easy to ask about their offense. It's so unique and so productive, but their defense is top 20 in points allowed and I think 13th in yards allowed. What's made them so salty this year?
Well, I think they've got an excellent front seven. Those guys fly around to the football. They're disruptive. They're sound. And then they back that up by being sound on the back end. And so they know who they are. They do some unique schemes. It's not like, they're a traditional, quote, Tampa 2 team or, a 4-2-5. There's different looks that they give you. Obviously, to go to the Air Force Academy, you got to be a bright player. And they recognize that. They have a complex scheme. It's hard to break down. It always seems like they have an answer to everything. And so I know our offensive staff has been in there grinding away. The other thing that makes it challenging is just counting on the number of possessions that you're going to get offensively. Their offense will hold the football. They're going to grind away. They're great on 4th down, and that lends itself to allowing that defense to not be on the field. They do a good job getting off the field, and they play to the strength of their offense by them keeping the ball. So we've got to be opportunistic on offense. We need to be very efficient. We're going to need some big plays. We're going to need to stay on the field.
Cody, go ahead.
Greg, does it surprise you at all that Air Force and yourself are a lot of recruits? It comes down to Wyoming Air Force. It seems like you guys recruit a lot of the same type of kids. Does that sound accurate?
I would say it's pretty accurate. Probably, maybe more so against recruiting that. Compared to recruiting against some of the other academies, every once in a while we'll have somebody that I know Army's looking at. But you're right, there's a lot of guys that have gone both ways. There's a lot of crossovers that we have. I think some of it's proximity, with being on the front range. And then also I think just some of the nature of what, Coach Calhoun looks for in a football player and what we look for in a football player. I think there's some similarities, obviously. You're looking at guys that are going to achieve academically, which we do as well. We're looking for tough, gritty guys. That also sounds like Air Force's guys as well.